just got Meike's VND adapter in for Sony cameras, and what's really cool about it is it takes the cinema cameras like Sony's FX30 that have an E-mount and gives it a VND built into its EF to E adapter. Now, it is meant to be used with Canon EF lenses, so today we're going to take a look and see how the actual quality of the VND is itself. Then we're going to take a look and see, does image stabilization work on Sigma's 24-70 lens, and then also, how does autofocus work? Now, I have been really excited to get this adapter in because not only did I use these types of adapters with Canon RF, which is part of the reason I started off on Canon RF cameras, but these adapters are drop-in filters, not just built-in adapters with filters. So not only can you put a drop-in, variable ND filter like this. This adapter comes with a clear filter. Meike also makes mist filters. Other companies also make filters as well. And what's cool about this specific filter from Meike is they actually use the exact same form as Canon's filters. So you can use any filter that would work with Canon's VND adapter with this Meike Sony adapter. So first off, if you don't know what this adapter's use is for, it's for using Canon EF lenses on Sony cameras and being able to have a variable ND filter built into the adapter, so you don't have to have a different ND filter for every single lens you have, or have to have step-up rings for every single lens to be able to use the one ND filter you have. The filter lives within this adapter, so it's a lot less likely to get scratched up. Now, if ND filters aren't your thing, well, the good news is this isn't just for ND filters. I just think using an ND filter is probably going to be the biggest use for this adapter. Rear filtration is just really nice because you don't have to mess with putting stuff in front of your lens. And like I said, you can use the same adapter and same filters for all the different EF lenses you have. But obviously, that begs the question, if you're on Sony, the only reason this would make sense is if you're shooting with EF glass, which, because I shoot on the RED Komodo, I shoot on the Canon R7 still, and until then, I was also shooting with Blackmagic cameras. I have just been using EF glass for such a long time just because of its adaptability. You can use it on so many different camera systems, and that's what makes that glass really special. In addition to that, a lot of the new glass that's coming out for a lot of these mirrorless Sony and Canon cameras have a lot of fixes in them that the camera actually does almost software-based to fix the whatever issues, distortion, purple fringing, whatever may show up in those lenses, where a lot of the classic EF lenses, not only are they a lot cheaper, but a lot of them look really great out of the box without having to have those fixes done. So you can use those lenses on a camera like the Sony Fx30 without having to have these lens corrections done in camera. But you can also use them on a camera like the RED Komodo, which has no lens corrections done in camera. So let's take a look at the image quality when you start stopping the adapter down. Now, as you see, there really isn't that much of a color shift as you go down the range. It's interesting to see that I think the camera itself has some filters built into the sensor, or basically put in front of the sensor. So I think it fixes whatever issues this glass may have that would show up on a camera like the RED Komodo, or really any camera that shoots RAW. So if you're shooting RAW on the FX30, you may want to double check your adapter. I don't have a way to shoot RAW on the FX30 right now, but you may not get the exact same results as shooting in the 10-bit modes. So as you can see, the image stabilization actually works really well with this adapter, which is really good news because for anyone who does run and gun work with a lens that has image stabilization built in, having that work is absolutely critical. By the way, if you're getting value out of today's video and you want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button below to keep up to date with the latest videos from the channel. Now, here's where the tricky part is, and here's the autofocus. Now, as you can see right here, there's this little switch, and it says CDAF and PDAF. So this adapter can use contrast detect autofocus and phase detect autofocus. Now, to a lot of videographers who shoot extensively with autofocus, contrast detect autofocus is almost like a no-no. And the reason being is it just isn't as good as phase detect autofocus. So there is a little bit of bad news with this adapter. And in video mode, which most people are going to be using this for, the autofocus will only work in contrast detect autofocus. It will work in phase detect autofocus for photos. However, the FX30 is a video first camera. So basically, I think you guys know where I'm getting at. As you can see by these examples, The autofocus just is not great with this adapter. It's nowhere near as responsive as the Meike adapter is on the Canon RF version. I think that's because Canon has made EF to RF adapters. It's pretty much all third-party adapters for Sony E-mount if you're going to use EF glass. From my use, nothing has come close to how well the Sigma MC11 adapter works with Sigma Art lenses on the Sony E-mount cameras. They just work really well. They work as close to Sony E-mount lenses as you can get, and this adapter just isn't there for autofocus. The question's going to be, who is this adapter for? And I think for anyone who shoots with expensive EF glass that uses manual focus, I think this adapter is going to be killer. Is the autofocus unusable on this adapter? No, but I wouldn't use it in any situations where you have fast-moving objects, anybody's going to be moving around a lot. I don't think this is going to cut it. However, if you're going to be using it for talking headshots or YouTube videos like this, then yeah, I think you'll actually be able to use the autofocus on this because it will catch on. It does work, as you've seen from my examples. It's just nowhere near as snappy as even this 11mm that I'm using right now from Sony. And it's part of the reason I bought the 11mm and the 15mm from Sony, just because the autofocus is insane. It works just as well as my RF lenses work on my Canon RF camera, which should be expected from these kinds of lenses. But I also use them more for content creation or real estate videography, whereas with this VND adapter, I plan on using it more with my lenses for higher end gigs where I may be run and gun in some situations, and having a VND is really nice. I do tend to still use manual focus. I really just use autofocus when it comes to events, weddings, content creation, live streaming. Sometimes real estate when it comes to narrative work. Documentaries hit and miss. It depends on what I'm doing, so I'm not really going to include that. But a lot of more serious work, I'll tend to use manual focus, and I know that that's where this VND adapter is absolutely going to come in play, because if I want to mix the FX30 with my R7 and with my Red Komodo, I'm probably going to use all EF glass on all three cameras, and it's nice that now I have VND adapters that I could put on all three cameras and be able to not have to bring ND filters for all the cameras. I have the ND filter essentially built into the mount, and it just makes run and gun a lot more simple. So I wanted to do this review to kind of go over the ins and the outs of this Meike adapter, because it is the first one of its kind for Sony E-mount. However, we know how this goes, and there's going to be more companies coming out with these. The good news about the autofocus is that there is a USB-C port here on the front that I'll take right here. I don't know if the autofocus is going to grab it. There we go. So there's a USB-C on the front right here, which means that this adapter can get firmware updates. So the possibility of them fixing the autofocus issues, or maybe at some point letting us use phase detect autofocus with the Sony cameras, that is a big possibility, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And if Meike comes out with an update, I'll absolutely cover it here on the channel, and I'll put a link in the description if I've come up with an update video. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so it is possible that this can get better. But like I said, I wanted to do this video because, number one, I was really excited for this adapter to come out. Number two, there are a lot of people that were just as excited for this adapter as I was, but because they use a lot of autofocus, I just don't think this adapter is going to fit their workflow, so it's good to know what this adapter can and can't do, at least at this current time here at the end of November, almost beginning of December in 2022. So if you have any questions on Meike's VND adapter, make sure to put them in the comments below. And if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos from the channel. Until next time, my name is Geoff Fagien. Thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you in the next video.